Okay. Hello, hello, and a big heartfelt welcome to everyone who's joining this session live today and to everyone who's listening to the recording. I am so glad you're here because boy, do we need more kindness in the world. I believe fierce kindness, and that's kindness and courage combined, is what our world needs to make the world a better place for everyone. So I am Emma Louise Elsey, founder of Fierce Kindness, and I am really excited to be here with you today. I've been a coach since 2004 and have had the joy of calling beautiful Canada home for over 2 decades now. I am deeply grateful to live this life I love. Also with me today is Jen Terry. She's had to turn her camera off because her laptop is being moody, her words. And Jen is currently working in the legal profession and is relatively new to personal transformation work. She's been enjoying Fierce Kindness and also the work of Marshall Rosenberg, Brené Brown, Kristin Neff, John and Julie Gottman, among others. That's very wonderful company. And Jen is kindly helping the gathering run smoothly today. But today's about you. And today we are trying a different format for these gatherings. So rather than me presenting a whole load of information and then you get one breakout group to meet each other, today I'm going to share an idea and then there are going to be 3 breakouts. So we're testing this. And that's really because we build community by meeting like-minded people. And I came up with kindred spirits. I love the idea of kindred spirits because it's got the word kind in there. So maybe we build community by meeting kindred spirits and then really sharing and getting to know each other. So first, here is how today will flow. Today we're looking at how to be and stay kind in a divided world. And one area where it can be more challenging to be kind is when we meet someone with very different views from ourselves. So today we are starting with this sort of like topic with a short guided exercise just to ground ourselves. Then I'll share the idea we'll be working with today, which is just one powerful way to stay kind in divisive times. We will have 3 breakouts, and then you'll identify an action to take, something to put kindness into action. And then the usual sharing our biggest wins or learning, and that will bring us to 50 minutes. And then the last 10 minutes of every gathering are optional. We choose the topic for next month and answer any questions that I may have or you may have. So if that sounds good, we can get started. Type yes in the chat if you're ready to get started. Yes, okay. Yes, lots of yeses and smiley faces with big noses. Okay. Okay, first, I could do this as well. I could do with this. Let's take a quick moment just to center ourselves with some gentle movement and breathing. I'd love for you to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And perhaps, if you'd like, you can begin to close your eyes now. And let's just do some simple movements. Roll your shoulders up and back. And then reverse that. And stretch your arms up. Maybe you might need to open your eyes a little bit here just to check you're not going to knock anything over. To stretch your arms out in front of you and roll your wrists both ways. All the while kind of just sinking in and feeling yourself sinking into the chair, feeling your feet on the floor, and taking deep breaths in. So, did we do the interlacing your fingers and stretching your arms forward already? If not, we can do it again. I always love this one. And breathe. And finally, let's just bring our hands to our heart. You are a unique once in all of time being. There has never been and never will be anyone quite like you. And we are all very glad you are here with us today. When you're ready, slowly begin to open your eyes and return to the room. So who is feeling a little bit more grounded now? And type in the chat if you're feeling a little bit more grounded or how you're feeling now. Okay, so here we go. So today's gathering is inspired by this quote. We are looking at how to stay kind in divisive times. Our world feels... Have you noticed I slowed down? It's interesting. We do this lovely breathing exercise and I notice that I'm slower in a good way. Our world feels increasingly divided, politically, socially, even within families. Democrat or Republican, we have pro-Brexit and anti-Brexit, we have vax and anti-vax, we have Israel or Palestine, and that's just the big things. Yet people are so much more complex than just this one choice that we see on the surface, just like you. And another thing that kind of inspired me today was this story about Abraham Lincoln, and you may have heard this. Lincoln was criticized for speaking kindly of Confederate enemies. And a woman asked him, how could he speak kindly of his enemies when he should rather destroy them? And apparently Lincoln replied, what, madam, do I not destroy them when I make them my friends? And it gives me a little bit of goosebumps. I've always loved that tiny little anecdote, because we may not be able to control how others behave, but we can choose to be kind, even with people we completely disagree with. So here's the reality. Many of us have felt judged during a conversation about something we care about. And then what usually happens is we get defensive. It's easy then and I know I do this as well sometimes when I'm not paying attention. We get defensive and then we judge the other person right back so that we feel better. And all of a sudden we're in an us versus them situation. But the moment we judge someone, we damage trust and increase division. And people feel it even when we think we're hiding it. And I think you know this. I know many of you are coaches, counselors, helpers, healers, carers. So you know this. But there is another way. So today we're exploring one powerful tool that can help reverse this cycle. And that is listening without judgment, especially when someone's views challenge our own. Because so many of us are accepting of diversity of race and religion, gender, sexuality, our ability, age, and anything else that makes us a unique human being. So why is it so hard to tolerate diversity of thought as well? And here's what's fascinating, and we all know this, that underneath our different beliefs, we all share the same core needs: health, happiness, safety, freedom, belonging. But we have different ideas about how to get there. So our challenge today, or our question today, what if true kindness actually starts with deep listening? And that brings us to the quote on screen. What if making someone feel truly heard was the first step towards healing our divided world? So, inspired by this beautiful quote, I propose that if we want to be kind in a divided world, we must start by listening without judgment so that people feel seen, heard, and loved, and that this helps us build the trust and close that division that we see everywhere. So I'm just curious, what do you think about that as an idea, if you want to type in the chat? And it takes a minute while people tweak in the chat. And I will also hit the super relevant. Thank you, Tracy. So we're going to go into the first breakout. And Jen says, I like it. It's all about psychological safety. Yes. So we're going straight into a breakout. So we're just trying something different here. I'm going to put each of you into, and I know some of you have only just agreed, you will have a chance, only just joined, you'll have a chance to meet each other in the breakouts. I think you'll have around 6 minutes in total, 7 minutes. And the goal is simply to explore the idea, what it means to you, and what you love about it. And we are going to discuss the challenges with this idea in the next breakout. So you don't need to get into that now. The first breakout is just about, what does this idea mean to you? And what do you love about it? And I'm just going to pause the recording for a second here. Figure out how to do that. There we go. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We'd love to hear from you. I'm curious what came up in your groups. What one key insight or takeaway would you like to share with us? So who would like to go first and unmute themselves and share?
I'll go first from, I believe we were group 1.
Okay.
I'm Janae, and I apologize for not having my camera on. I'm not able to at this time.
It's fine.
And our group, I think a big takeaway that came up is just how beautiful it is to be seen and heard without judgment, and then offer that to other people. And that curiosity is a way that we can get to that space of listening without judgment.
I love that. Yeah, curiosity is so key. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Janae. And okay, who else have we got? Who else would like to share a key learning insight or takeaway from your breakout? Just unmute yourself and share when you're ready. And you can also type, if you have some extra things to say, you can also type them in the chat as well.
So I'll share.
Hi, Ellen.
Hi. So I was in a room with Jen, and she said something which I thought was great about, like sometimes people might want advice rather than just be listened to. So it's like setting the parameters at the beginning. Like, are you just wanting someone, do you just want to share with me what's going on in your life, or are you also looking for some sort of advice or encouragement about it? And finding out, setting the kind of the parameters at the beginning.
Okay, I love that. So being really clear about what's expected.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't know, there's an article on the website I got from it's about before you have a conversation with someone who comes to you, to ask them if they want to be helped, heard, or hugged.
Oh, I love it.
I love that too. And it's like, yeah, it stops us from going into advice giving when it's not wanted. And sometimes all people want to do is to be heard.
Yeah.
Or hugged for that matter. Okay, who else have we got? What else do you want to share?
I was in a group with Carolyn, and she said something absolutely wonderful. We were talking about listening and how listening and hearing deeply. And she said that when you're listening deeply, you're listening with your heart. And when you're doing that, you're hearing with empathy, and judgment can't seep in when you're listening with your heart. So when you're embracing the situation of listening to someone, try listening with your heart.
I love that. That is very beautiful. So I can see why you love that, Tracy. And thank you, Carolyn. So listening with our heart, when you're listening with your heart, yeah, you can't, it's hard, impossible to judge someone because we're in that space of connection. Love it. I think we've got time for one more. Who else would love to share a key insight or takeaway that came up in their group? And you just unmute yourself and share when you're ready. Or type it in the chat.
Emma Louise, just from our conversation that I had with Sherry, we just kind of talked about how important it was to listen to hear, and not necessarily prove ourselves or try to, interrupt to state what our point is, but to just really listen to what the other person has to say.
Okay, I love that. So listening, deep listening without thinking about what you're going to say next or defending, but just deeply hearing without without doing something ourselves. It's deep listening is actually passive. Like passive is, well, it's not passive because you have to actively deeply listen, but there shouldn't be anything going on from your side. Okay, anyway, let's those are wonderful insights. I love them. And we're going to go into breakouts again, but this time we're going to explore the challenges of listening to people who are very different to us. So I'm going to assign you to breakout rooms again, and we're going to talk about what challenges you see with this idea and maybe possible solutions, although I think a couple of the solutions have already come up here. And again, there'll be 2 to 3 of you, and you'll have about 5 minutes in total. So let's do some breakout rooms again. Now let's do this, recreate. There we go. Okay, see you in a minute. Yeah. We've resumed recording here. Welcome back, everybody. So we'd love to hear from some of you. What came up in your groups? What are the challenges of listening without judgment, and what potential solution? Just one key insight or takeaway.
We came up with two solutions. Is if you listen with curiosity and context, trying to understand the why, so the behind what they're saying, and try to stay curious about what they're trying to get to.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Tracy. And who else wants to?
Yeah, I would like to go, Emma.
Yeah.
I was team up with Gary, and the most possible challenge that, in fact, I had more than Gary to share with this idea of simply listening without judgment. I think cultural biases, confirmation biases, the many biases that we are hardwired to, that often make us people who jump to judgments and conclusions. And to really, the possible solution is to think or to approach things out of curiosity, but that takes practice. That reflective pause where you step back and say, hey, wait, these are my biases at work right now, and I really need to get to that curiosity space where I start to look at that person, literally hear he or she, whoever. When Gary shared his experience, I said, you're far, way above in terms of your listening space. And I think I'm just a beginner here, because he said his point was that he shared a very beautiful quote that he learned from his mentor about just being aware where you are so self-aware of yourself, where you, he says it's been a lifelong journey of learning how to be more and more aware of your inner cosmos, where you give people that space to, hear them without judgment, because you yourself are fully aware. But then that's a very high, I would say, maturity level that he shared.
Yeah, so we need to practice. We all need to practice.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a skill. It's a skill.
Yes. The biggest challenge, yes, just to summarize, is this biases I operate from personally, like confirmation, cultural, and being hardwired to that. And the practice, as you mentioned, Emma, the practice of taking that reflective pause, pausing, reflecting, and then operating out of curiosity, so that I don't jump to conclusions or judgments, rather just hear, just give my listening ear to someone and make them feel heard without, judging.
I love that. That's all beautiful. And it flows so beautifully from the first breakout as well. So we've got time for one more quick share from someone if they have something they want to share, and you can also type things in the chat as well. Okay, hi, Ellen. Oh, you're not mute. You're muted at the moment. There we go.
I was in the room with Sherry, and what she pointed out, which I hadn't thought about, was for teaching kids kindness, because kids get wrapped up in the whole thing of going to school, and maybe they get in with a bully, or they get in with a crowd that's not doing. So we were talking about the whole, like, well, how does that make you feel? Like, to get people into their heart. And it's like, my commitment is to always to be at peace. And so if I'm having a conversation and I start feeling, what? It's like, I have to pause, because it's pausing and being in the breath of it, like coming back to center with it. And it's that just listening, and it's just listening with curiosity, not listening to prove to this person that I'm right, they're wrong. And that, to me, that's what's the world is at war, because of the right wrong conversation all the time.
Absolutely.
And so just being kind and giving someone that space to.
I love that. It's beautiful. And it goes back to what Carolyn said about listening, which is what you said, with your heart. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so where do we go from here? We have one more breakout. That was really beautiful. Some great ideas. One more breakout here, which is simply, what other practical ways can you think of to maintain kindness with people who hold different or opposing views? So you can develop the ideas we've already talked about, or perhaps you have some other things racing around in your brain that you'd like to share. So I'm going to put you into your final breakout rooms, which means, Walter, you'll be joining a breakout room this time. Let's see how many breakout. There we go, we create. And opening all rooms. All right, see you in a minute. Oh, you're gonna get 3 minutes this time as well. Hey, everyone's rejoining. Is everyone back now? Let's see. How are we doing? People are rejoining. There we go. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so what final tips do we have? What tips and ideas do we have of other practical ways we can stay kind in divisive times? Who wants to unmute themselves and share? We don't have a lot of time, but let's have a couple quick ideas here.
I want to go first, Emma.
Okay.
Emma, first thing, I was in room with Lisa, and for some reason, I think Lisa couldn't connect. So I was alone. I was alone in the room brainstorming the idea.
I'm so sorry about that. Did you have lots of chance to think?
Yes, that's the reason why perhaps I have an idea. Something I have personally practiced this because I was actually caught up into a situation on social media, Twitter, on some political difference of opinion on political ideologies in India, which is a big polarization reason for a lot of people. So, okay, one idea that I personally helped me was to start with a good intent. I think intention is important, specifically when we are dealing with people having very different ideas, different belief systems, and different mindset. So when we enter into a conversation or an interaction with good intent, not literally trying to having some ulterior motives, not to say each one of us may have that, but a good intent can keep us not falling in the trap of being judgmental. It helps.
Yeah.
I've personally tried. Yes, I've personally tried that on Twitter because I was once really, it was bringing the wild and the evil side of me, and I kind of stopped myself. I was like, what the hell am I saying and doing? So I stopped myself and I asked myself this question, taught to me by my spiritual teacher, that always have intentions and good ones. So
I love it. Okay,
that's my idea. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mernaz. We got maybe a couple more. We could maybe type some in the chat. So who else would like to share an idea that they had in their group?
So I was in the room with Jen again, and this is oops, can you hear me?
Yeah, we could hear you, Ellen.
So she was speaking, and I forgot about this whole thing of when you're with someone and you really are at that stalemate of, that there's no movement, and it's like just agreeing to disagree, and let's stay in a state of love with each other.
I love that.
So that to me is a great, when it gets to that point where you can feel like it could be getting into, it's like, you know what, I think we just need to stop and let's just agree that this is something we disagree about.
But I still love you.
And I still love you. Yes.
Beautiful.
Stay there. Let's stay in peace and kindness with each other. And just because on this one topic we might differ, that doesn't change how I feel about it.
I love that. Thank you, Ellen. Beautiful. Okay, we got time for one more very quick one. Jania actually said Gary had a very practical and specific idea. I see that in the chat. So I don't know, Gary, whether you would feel like sharing that with us. Oh, Walter, you unmuted as well. Did you?
Well, just to say that, no, well, I got an opportunity, and thank you for allowing me to be part of this, as I looked with Katie, and we actually talked about two things. One, she mentioned about breaking bread, being at the table, and I said, yes, absolutely. Being able to kind of eat food is a very kind of way of identifying common ground of like sharing food. And that's also, I was telling her from a religious standpoint, that's something that my church was talking about. How do you kind of find common ground? Let's go get some food together. Another thing I mentioned was the importance of remembering that, you know, because from my religious perspective, that you know, these other people are also image bearers of God, that they are no different than I am in that regard. And so therefore, you know, and she kind of mentioned that even if you're not religious, that actually we're all made from the same molecules. And so seeing people as really those image bearers or whatever that image winds up being is a way of remembering, you know, that they're really part of you. And so therefore there's no lesser and or greater in that regard. It's a way of kind of really letting that reflexive pause slow you down and engage with people in much more of a very different way, not othering them, but actually, you know, from my mind, as Peter Hawkins would say, going from IQ to WeQ, that we're all really part of the same larger family.
Love that. That is really beautiful. Thank you, Walter. Thank you so much. And Gary, I don't know whether you could share quickly your practical and specific idea.
Sure. My context was because I'm a litigation lawyer. I'm always dealing with people who have different facts, different opinions, and different conclusions as to how the case should be decided. And so that's a given. And so the approach is to discover as much as I can about what makes their facts more important than my facts, why they think their position is better than my position. I go into inquiry mode and not in an accusatorial way. It's like, help me understand, you know, why your point of view, why your argument, why your facts, and the interpretation of your facts are more persuasive than mine. And when I'm doing mediations and I'm not in an adversarial position, I find the challenge is, wow, I can see one counsel's point of view makes sense, and I see the other counsel's point of view makes sense. Now, how do we come to a settlement, given that they both make sense? But the key is ask questions, be in the inquiry mode, but not in an accusatory or a manipulative way. Really try to understand. And once you have that, your dilemma probably will be, now what do I do?
Because everyone's point is valid. That is also beautiful. So many gorgeous ideas today. I'm actually going to listen to this again, and I think I'm going to do a little summary of tips and ideas and do an article, because this is what community does. The whole is so much greater than the individual parts. When we come together, we inspire ideas and we get enthused and share things, and then that makes me think of things. So I'm going to listen to this again and write a little article to share with our audience. So thank you so much for your contributions. I'm going to, let's see. So with everything you have learned today, what one action will you take to be part of the solution going forwards? So I'd love you to write that down if you have a pen and paper. What most inspired you today? What is one action you will take to be kinder in this divided world? And then when you're ready, I'd love for you to share that in the chat. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Listening from the heart, listening with curiosity and with heart, staying curious about the context of someone's comment. These are all great ideas. What else have we got here? Watching my tone with someone. Yeah, it's interesting. Tone and the way our body language can suggest so much and can create a response, like a hostile response, and it can also create a relaxing response. We have some, sharing stories and food. I love that. That came up in the most recent World Happiness Report, that sharing food together is such a powerful community builder and helps us be kinder to each other. Sharing stories and food, and trying to be more intentional, curious, and practicing more often, and committing to stay grounded, calm, and peaceful in a conversation. Okay, so there might be a couple more coming through there. Oh, I am part of the solution. Love my neighbor like myself. Yes. Okay, so, okay, we're almost done. Let's see here. We have, obviously, a huge thank you to you all for participating. I would love it if you could wrap up by typing your biggest win of the session today. So that might be your action, or it might be meeting other people. Who knows what your biggest win will be? So it'd be great if you could type your biggest win or insight today in the chat. And as we wrap up today, while you're typing those, I want to thank the lovely Jen Terry again for her kind help today. Thank you, Jen. And whether you're here live or listening to the recording, I want to thank you all for being here and for being part of making our world a kinder place. Remember that each of us has the power to spark meaningful change in ourselves and others. Every kind action we take creates ripples of kindness that flow out into the world and make it a better place. You are, just by listening and just by being here, a kindness trailblazer. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'm going to, let's just see what people have as insights. Loving that others are also in this business of kindness. Everyone loved the lovely chats. Thank you for the reminder to stay kind with everyone who crosses my path. Approaching the hard conversations with a not greater than, a not less than mindset, that we're all equals. The butterfly effect. Biggest wins, the breakouts, and creating beautiful ripples. Oh, Tracy says she met 4 wonderful new friends, which is perfect. That's the kindness community, and kindness is powerful. Practice. Oh my goodness, the speed dating was fabulous. I hope I've read everyone's out, but I've probably missed a few here. So we're gonna just see the last quote just to leave you with here. Carl Rogers was an American psychologist and one of the founders of humanistic psychology and person-centered psychotherapy, which is a bit of a mouthful. And he said, "We think we listen, but very rarely do we listen with real understanding and true empathy. Yet listening of this very special kind is one of the most potent forces for change that I know." And that wraps up this month's Kindness Community Gathering. A huge thank you to everyone. And remember to stay on the call if you have feedback, questions, or want to help choose the topic for our next gathering. And for now, bye everybody. Bye. Thank you.